Hi, everybody. This is Craig with Out on Film, and welcome to another of our Out on Film conversations. And I am really thrilled to have two of the actors from the film you just saw, Through the Glass Darkly. So I want to welcome Robyn and Michael Trucco. Welcome to Out on Film, and thank you for joining us tonight.
Thank you so much for having me, for having us.
So Robyn, I want to start just by saying, first off, we're in Atlanta. Welcome home.
Thank you so much. It's so nice to be home.
That's we can be home.
Yeah.
So I just want to start. You grew up here in Powder Springs, right?
Yes, I did. Yes. I'm a true Southern belle, I tell you that much. Like, thickest Southern accent you've ever heard.
So I wanted to start with the two of you by first saying congratulations on a great film.
Thank you.
I will just tell you, when we were screening films for the festival, this came up kind of late in the schedule, as we were about to we were finishing up, and we screened it, and I was like, oh my God, we have to show this film. It's great. It's in Georgia. You know, we have local producers and things, and so it's just, that was just our reaction, and I, as artist in this, what is your reaction when a project like this is completed?
I honestly, I've been so anxious to get it out there. So I'm so thrilled that it's doing the circuit right now, the festival circuit, because I'm so proud of it for obvious reasons. And I have to tell you this, when I read it, I loved it, but it is so much better than anything I could have imagined. And that's like the highest compliment. It exceeded my highest expectations. So I'm so thrilled that everyone's getting an opportunity to see it.
Yeah, I would say the same thing that Robyn was saying, is that it's been a while, right, since we shot it, and then we put the movie together, and then I saw everybody again over when we started going to do some ADR work on it in post-production. To finally let it see the light of day is it's great. And like Robyn, I too, upon seeing it, was like, oh wow. I thought it was beautifully shot. I thought the story was perfectly told, and really, really excited to get to be a part of it.
Because you have no idea when you're working. You've never met the director before. You have no idea what they're going to do or how you're going to look or how they're. And Lauren, well, I should call her Fash because she's our Fash. Fash is so, gosh, she's got such an incredible eye, and she allowed me to. She set the tone for the set, and for me to be able to have the performance that I did. I could not have done it without her and my fellow actors, of course. You're only as good as your fellow actors and your director.
So when you are looking at this as a project, as artists, I mean, aside from the obvious that you're actors, this is your craft, you want to work, what is it about a project like this, these characters, that make you say, I really want to do this? And Robyn, I'll start with you.
Oh, okay. Well, that's an easy one. I've told this story a few times, how I got the audition and I read it and I was like, oh, wow. I was instantly intrigued. I loved it. I was like, oh, the South. Yes, I'm in. And then I was like, I'm sure I'm not going to get this, because this is so different than anything I've ever done. It's so innately different from who I am, just in general. I'm super feminine, and I just was like, well, I love it, so I'll give it a shot. And then to find myself in a situation where Fash and the producers were like, she's it gave me such confidence every day on set that they believed in me that much as Charlie. And I was so great. I was so thrilled to be able to do something so different. And I got the wardrobe early, and I would walk around my house in Atlanta, and I would just try to see, like, who is she? How does she walk? How does she talk? I cut my hair, everything to help me submerge myself into the skin of this character. And I really felt her. I really felt like I knew her, and I loved her. But it was such a departure from anything I've ever done, and what a great experience that was as an actor.
And Michael, how about for you, when you see your approach, or you see, you know,
Yeah.
what makes
Generally, you don't normally seek out the diabolical embodiment of evil as Trip Carmichael is portrayed. So it's not like you read that character and go, oh man, I want to play that guy.
Yeah.
So I think what happens is that it's a dramatic necessity, clearly, in good storytelling, and you have to have protagonists and antagonists. So the challenge becomes, at least for me, and I think for a lot of actors, when you approach a character that is quote unquote the antagonist, is to find the justifiable humanity in that character, because you want to try to get past the chin stroking, mustache curling, you know. And so I got to tell you, initially, like Robyn, I read it, I was like, what a great script. And then I was like, oh, what a repellent character. And I was resistant to the idea. I really was. And I auditioned for it. But then when it became real and concrete and there was an offer on the table, I think I balked. And I think I was like, no, oh, no, I can't. I just don't want to go there with this character. And that's always, I think, an immediate defense that we have. That's that fear. And like Robyn has mentioned, when you walk on the side of uncertainty and uncomfortability as an actor, that takes you to a place where you want to walk in your comfort zone and go, this is a great part, I can nail this. When you got to play somebody like this and bring it some realism to it, it makes you go to dark places. And so my initial reaction was like, I don't want to do this, but I'm glad I did.
Yeah, you were so good, Michael.
Thanks.
You were especially good with the scene with the gun.
Yeah. Have a little training with firearms.
We have that's a little inside joke. But honestly, Michael, you were so good.
Oh.
I couldn't stand you.
That's good. See, there you go. That's the problem. If you're good, people hate you, so that's okay then.
Yeah.
So one of the things that that struck me when I first saw it, when we were screening it, is the first thing I thought was like, this is something I haven't seen before, and truly, that this is a story we told this way. We haven't seen this before. And one of the things that I was so struck by is, one, with you, Robyn, how you just so embody Charlie.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we're Southern. We're here in the South. It's like, I know Charlie.
I do too.
We know Charlie.
Yeah.
It's not easy to do that. I mean, it's to be that authentic and to embody a character so thoroughly that we come away like we know her.
Thank you so much. That's the highest compliment, truly. Like I said to you, by the end of it, I really was so connected to her. And there are obviously things that I could say, I understand her pain. I am a mother. I understand this to a degree. And I feel like it allows you as actors to be able to be so much more empathetic and sympathetic to people, because you're able to, like, for a moment, live a different life. And surely I don't know it. I don't totally know it, but my gosh, that pain, you feel it. You absolutely feel the pain of those characters. And so I feel so appreciative that translated. Thank you so much for that. But yeah, I love this. Hang on one. I have my whole family now home, so I apologize for the noise. Anyway.
Is it like a surprise party?
Yeah, totally.
We're live. It's okay. But Michael, along those same lines, I mean, you were just saying, it is the kind of diabolical character. And one of the things that I thought you did exceedingly well is that so often, and Robyn, you'll appreciate this, Southern people, when you're portraying them, it can go so quickly into caricature.
Right.
You did not do, and it's easy in these roles, particularly for the men, like for your character, for the sheriff, it's so easy to fall into a caricature of these characters, but you didn't. You were able to, I mean, he's a bad guy, but you do find some humanity there. How do you make that work?
I think exactly what you said is trying to avoid falling into the trappings of caricature. And this is a specific piece. It's placed in the South. We shot it in the South. So you become a little bit like a chameleon and a sponge, and you absorb the culture around you. That helped a lot, being in Ellijay and listening to the locals. And while you might have a propensity for an accent, it is easy to drop into a ham-fisted caricature. And that was my thing, was I wanted to have some humanity. I wanted to express this mother-son relationship with Judith and myself. And he really, at the heart, this chest-thumping, screaming beast is really just scared mama's boy, you know, and that was kind of, you know, some of the elements that we were going for. But, you know, it's an important element to a story like this. The time is relevant. These are real issues. There's a great line Shanola has, "I'm just tired of men getting away with shit," you know, and there's like, that just resonates. And this speaks so loudly to our world on so many levels. So while it's a character that is like, it's gross to walk in his shoes, it's super important to tell these stories and to represent it on screen so that we have something for our protagonists. We have somebody to root for, and you have somebody to root against. And, you know, somebody's got to walk that line.
Take one for the team.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's shot here in Georgia, which I think adds to that real moodiness to it, the places that you've shot. So, like, for you as actors, when you're in a location like this in Ellijay and Nelson, I think, and some of the other places that you were, how helpful is that as you're kind of telling the story and having it unfold?
Well, I think it was incredibly helpful. It's kind of the same as like putting on the wardrobe, you know, as the character that you're playing. It really allows you to submerge yourself into the role and into the environment. And it was super helpful for me anyway. I think it's incredibly helpul.
And I also found it interesting because I don't know how much but we know the movie is actually set, it's somewhat of a period piece, which is clever because it's set in the late 90s, and there's something a little bit timeless about smaller towns that really help tell the story. So not only are you transported to a physical place, but it helps put you in that time frame. And that wasn't something that you have to kind of carry with you shooting a movie like this. Is you absorb the small town feel, but we also have to place ourselves 20 something years into the past, which isn't a full-fledged period piece. Not like we're 2 centuries into the past. It's that awkward time where just before cell phones and you know, and social media, and the world carried itself a little differently. And I think the small town helps tell that story because there's something great about small town Americana that is timeless.
So, and it just, and for us, it's like I recognize some of the places. I mean, it was,
yeah, it's great.
I mean, I know some of the places. One of the things that I think when we look at a film like this and the way the story unfolds, because it's kind of a thriller, you know, it's kind of dark and moody. We don't really know what's going on with Charlie, and you know, and she's under suspicion. So it's kind of like this thriller crime drama, and then we come to what for me was just almost a heartbreaking moment at the police station when Charlie sees herself. And, and Robyn, and I wanted to ask you, and it came up on our question from our audience who's watching, what is that, how do you pull a scene like that? I mean, it's so pivotal, and truly, I watched it again this afternoon, and I'm like, this is just a heartbreaking moment.
Yeah, it was even more heartbreaking that we had to shoot it twice. I got that thing under my belt and I was so relieved. I was like, oh, you know, as an actor, you hope that on the day of shooting, you connect in that moment. And I did, and I was so relieved. And Fash had scheduled the shooting schedule was so that it was really thoughtful and considerate to everything, like, you know, becoming more aware of the character and becoming comfortable with everyone around you. So it was like 2 weeks in, I think, and it was such an important scene. And then we had a problem, so we had to reshoot it.
I didn't know that. Really?
Yes,
Oh,
Michael,
no.
we did, and I was literally dying. I was like,
Oh
no.
no, that's an actor's
Yeah,
worst
you know
nightmare.
what that's like, right? I was
Oh
so
man, do I?
relieved
Yeah.
I was so relieved that I did it, and I felt so good with it, and I was like, oh yes, the stars aligned. It was great, and then it was like, oh gosh,
Film.
we got to do that. Yeah, a hair in the gate, but no.
Was
there's
this
no
supposed to be plugged in? Anybody see this? Was this the power? Camera's not turning?
totally.
Oh,
So I was, but I have to say, I have to mention something that I think is really evident in our film is like, you know, like I'm saying, you read it and you just don't, you have a vision of what it's going to be. And then you see it put together, and it's put together so beautifully and brilliantly, and you're so elated. And also the minute I met each actor, I was like instant connection with Shanola. I was so thrilled that she and I just clicked, and she is my sister. I mean, we are lifers, and we went through so much together, and I couldn't have had a performance like I did without her and her support, and Michael and everyone, and Fash.
and Houston is the sheriff.
And I think in Kinsley as well, and we're still close, my daughter. So my point being is that translates on film. When you have that kind of connection with people and that kind of chemistry, you get magic. And I could not be more thrilled with all of it.
Well, and there were some small scenes, but the scenes with you and Bethany Ann, who is a local actress, they're just so tender.
She's wonderful.
They're so tender and beautiful. You know, how did you two navigate that, bringing that relationship together in these small moments?
Well, gosh, like I'm saying to you, it all just aligned, like everything just aligned. And the first time when we first met, we went to the production office, and did a wardrobe fitting, and then we were going to do stills, or the video image, you know, in the memory, the flashback. So we were doing the video footage for that. And that was the first day I met her. And it was just so comfortable, and it was so natural, and there was nothing about it that felt, that didn't feel organic or I don't know how to explain it, but it was just like the pieces just fell in place. And even Fash was like, oh my gosh, she watched the video footage. She was like, I felt your relationship. I bought it 100%. Like, and I don't know how to explain that because we didn't know each other.
Right.
So she's such a wonderful actress too, Bethany. I just adored her. It was so comfortable and easy, and it just felt right. And I really do have to say that I feel like I just felt this character. I felt her. I don't think I could have done it with long hair. You know, the hair had to be right. The clothes had to be right. I had to know who she was. And the minute I put my clothes on, I was like, okay, I'm Charlie. I get it.
It showed. I mean, it really did.
Thank you so much.
You really leave it all on the screen, Robyn. It really is everything. It was your physicality. It was the tenor of your voice, the cadence of your voice.
Oh, thank you.
That consistent, and so that we could play the two worlds. It really, you left on the screen, and it's a piece of work to be proud of.
Oh, thank you so much. It means so much to me. It really does.
It's true.
I do want to ask you both, as you both have really robust careers, and one of the things, and we're a queer film festival, so we're going to talk about being queer. One of the things when we screened this, one was that it is a lesbian protagonist, which we don't see enough of. And we just don't. I mean, where you see, we see films that are for women that may have lesbian characters in it, but a lesbian protagonist,
right,
who is not struggling with coming out or was married and now is, I mean, this was an established relationship. And I want to just, as working people in this industry, when we think about representation, across the board, do you see that things are better? Do you see that there are more options? But just from your perspective, as actors in this industry for a long time, where would you say we are in terms of representation, both in front of and behind the camera, and particularly for women and particularly for lesbians?
This is a renaissance. This is a movement that's happening. This is particularly a time, I mean, we've celebrated women in film for decades. But this is really, this is a culmination of moment for not just women in film, it's for the LGBTQ community, it's for Black and Brown. It's happening on a level which I think the turn for me is what you just said, Craig, is this is a story that has a lesbian protagonist, but the hook of the story isn't the fact that she's a lesbian. Right. It's when it just happens to be a subset of the character is, oh, and by the way, she's in a all-female relationship, but here's this great noir thriller. That's when we start to see the proper representation, and we don't pin the entire story on like, well, it's a lesbian in a small town, and put such a fine point on it that we're hammering it home. It's just when we start representing a proper cross-section of humanity. That's my laundry. Actors, just like real laundry. And that's what I'm excited about, is seeing that, yes, there was somewhat of a heavy-handed approach in the last 5 to 10 years, like we've got to get representation, and it was important. Now I feel like we're not forcing it down the throat in the story. We're making real human fleshed out characters that represent the broad spectrum of humanity. And that's what I'm excited about. And that's what I'm optimistic and hopeful for in our industry.
What about you, Robyn?
I couldn't agree more. I think that was so beautifully said. I've noticed, like, I think things are changing so much for the better. So much more inclusive, so much more diverse. Like, this was unheard of just a handful of years ago. Yeah. So I think it's so exciting. I mean, you're saying in front of and behind the camera, same. Like, I'm doing a project now, and I'm like, I love what I'm seeing. I'm seeing so many wonderful things, just so inclusive, so much more, and it's obvious. That's the thing I noticed. I was like, wow, this is a noticeable change, and it's just so wonderful that the direction that we're headed in. And I'm really excited, and I'm really proud to be a part of that. And yeah, Michael, you're so right about everything you said. And I can only imagine being Charlie, having lived in that time in the South and having a wife, and gosh, I can't even imagine how difficult that must have been. So, yeah, and that's for a lot of people.
But look at the level of work. Like you said, the change is noticeable behind and in front of the camera, but you know what hasn't changed? The quality. The work is as good as it's ever been, because women are doing beautiful work. And this is a movie that's produced, directed, written. Like, if you look at our credits all up and down, it's like, there you go. And for so long in this misogynistic business that we are in, we're like, oh, like that patronizing pat on the head, like, oh, look, a woman wants to make a movie, how cute.
Right.
That's
right.
Bullshit. That's all bullshit. Totally. Like, there are just artists, and when you give somebody the chance to create art, you see what somebody like what Lauren Fash is doing, and you're like, hello. Reed Morano's another great example. I mean, it's just
totally.
On and on and on. I mean.
Yeah.
So I'm so happy to be a part of it.
Because one of the things that Lauren, I just thought did so well, and Robyn, you just said this, it's a Southern town, they're lesbians, it's about, they have a kid, there is mixed race casting, I mean, and to have this take place in a small Southern town, for us, I think as a Southern audience, really just, I think it's so validating.
I love that.
You know what I mean? I mean, it's just, this is what the world is like, and this is what somebody's perspective can be.
Absolutely.
And I think
because we know growing up in the South, we know how Southerners can be.
Yes. Yeah.
Not everybody, because sometimes small town folks are very, you know what I'm saying? But I think we're evolving. I really do think we're evolving, everyone. I really, that's my hope anyway, but it sure seems like that's happening.
Yeah.
So, as we kind of close out, as you kind of think about the experience that you had making this film, your connection to the film, and as people are screening it and people are watching it, what is something that you really hope that people walk away with from having experienced this story? And Michael, I'll start with you.
Wow, I think on so many of the things that we've touched on prior to this, an inclusive. I want somebody to watch just a great action thriller noir, whodunit detective movie, and not not notice, like, you know, I love the fact that we have a lesbian character. I want people to get the takeaway that there is a broader representation in our craft, in our art, and we have evolved as an industry, as a culture, as humanity. And I hope people take that away. It's when you're watching a film and you don't recognize the cultural fabric of the cast. It's just you recognize a story and you just get sucked into a good story. And as until later you go, oh, I'll be damned, that was a lesbian couple. Because you don't stop and opine when you see a heterosexual couple. You don't go, oh, look at that, a man and a woman. We just watch the story.
Yeah.
The minute we can stop looking through those lenses and take the optics and change it to that, we just get sucked into a story. And we don't go, oh, that's a good thing. That was a good movie for a female director. You know, like, I want to get all those asterisks and all those butts taken out of the conversation. And I just want people to see art for art's sake. And I know that sounds super utopian and hyper optimistic, and I don't mean to belittle it, but I feel I am being optimistic, and that is my great hope for people's takeaway on something like this.
And Robyn, what about you?
Yeah, well, again, I echo everything that Michael said. But, you know, Fash and her partner, Susan Graham, they wrote this. I don't know if you guys are aware of that, but they're married. And I just think that they did such a beautiful job at telling this story and not hitting everyone over the head with, oh, this is a lesbian couple. They're just a couple. That's it. You know, they love each other. And because they did it so beautifully, my hope is that people can watch this film and relate to these characters as human beings and not as like, oh, they're a lesbian. Like Michael was saying, oh, it's a lesbian couple. They're human, and you can identify with their pain and their struggles. And like, that's my goal. And that's my hope for everyone, is that they can relate and then have more empathy and sympathy for others and more acceptance.
Exactly.
Excellent. Well, I think on that note, I want to thank both of you for joining us. You know, this is one of our favorite films. We're very proud that it's in Georgia, and the local people that got to work on it, and that we're able to bring it to our festival and to our patrons to enjoy. And a movie that I think will speak to a lot of people. And so I want to thank you for participating in the movie and really for talking with me about it. So it's just been a real joy for me to have you both here.
Where's that Georgia accent, Craig? It sounds. I think it comes out from time to time.
Now, when I get really, really tired or I get really, really angry.
Oh, okay. Well, I hope I don't experience that.
Really come out.
or when you're with your really Southern family.
It just kind of, you just really let that.
Yeah.
But it's been a pleasure. Thank you both for joining us. And
thank you. Thank you so much.
And thank you all for joining us for this conversation about Through the Glass Darkly. If you enjoyed this film and watched this, please tell everybody to log in and get a ticket and see this film. I think everybody's going to really enjoy it. Thank you all for joining us, and enjoy the rest of the festival.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you so much. Bye.
See you guys. Take